This episode is partially brought to you by the Humble Choice program. Did you know Humble Bundle has a great monthly subscription service that lets you get a ton of video games every single month? That's right, from plans range from $5 to $20 a month, you get a hold of a bunch of free games they have available to you. And you could use our code down in the description below to go and sign up. It would help our podcast and help you see what great games are available for you this month. Hello everyone, and welcome back to one of these fun interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike. Today I do only have me with me hosting, but I have a special guest to talk about a game that, let's be honest here, is a bit of a classic game, but with a bit of a video game twist to it. So yeah, to get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and the name of the game we're here to talk about?
Yeah, so my name is Vasil Kotsev, and the game in question is called Billiards of the Round Table. It's a very fun twist on the classic billiards game. It's not usually something that you see often on Steam. It's usually something that you see on mobile devices. But I was playing one day. One day I was playing around with the idea of making a game with marbles. Having seen a video on YouTube about a professional marble league in the States. And it looked a bit silly to me, but then I started to play around with the idea in Unity, and then I come up with some cool twists on the marble game and combining it with the billiards, which is, let's say, a more popular gateway to a big audience when you put this in the title. Yeah, it kind of started as a simple marble game, but I had the idea of having two players play against each other and steal each other's marbles. The winner gets the marbles of the other one and something like that. But then it evolved in something, let's say, using known mechanics with a twist that's, let's say, unlike anything that uses mechanics like this. It's not really. It says billiards in the title, but it has basically very little to do with the classic game as you know it. It's just there to give the players an idea of what the basic mechanics look like, but with very different rules. And I really think very exciting twists. And hopefully, if somebody's listening and want to give it a try, it's available right now on Steam and also on Android for free. Of course, there are ads that you need to watch. Unfortunately, this is the reality of the mobile games. It's very hard to get players to actually try a paid app on mobile platforms. The reality is the gamer on the mobile platform is just let's say spoiled is probably not the right word, but unwilling to pay for a premium game. So that's basically it. Yeah,
I was gonna say we could jump into that in a second, but yeah, that's that mobile has its, we'll say, fair share of problems. So to get us started though, so as you said, this is Billiards Round Table, which as you're calling it, marble, like billiards or kind of a marble twist kind of. Like, I am curious. From like, I've played my fair share of, like, in the US, I don't know what place we call it, pool at least. Like, I played my, like, at least, like, a good chunk of, like, bars or people's basements or whatever. Why did you decide to be, like, to make that something that you're like, hey, I want to go through this process of making it into, like, a game and, like, with some twists on it? Was there something kind of, like, different about it that you're like, hey, it felt off to me? Or is it just kind of you thought it wouldn't play as well on the computer?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think the majority of the people who are interested in games like those are on mobile platforms. And honestly, I had experience making games for PC and decided, okay, maybe let's try to do a mobile game this time. And honestly, it's a very nice experience if, especially for a developer who's used to making a game for PC. You're kind of faced with different conditions when you're making a mobile game. On PC, especially on modern PCs, If you're a small team, it's very hard to make, let's say, you can do it, but it's very hard to make a game that really takes a lot of hardware. Usually, indie developers, you're 2 or 3 people. You don't have tons and tons of vector of models with millions of polygons and things like this. And when you try to switch a platform, making a game from a mobile platform, there's very different, let's say, limitations that you have to adhere. But yeah, so the idea was, honestly, I wanted to make let's say, a simple game, having seen, as I mentioned before, this video of people playing marbles, and I realized in the US, people play marbles in one way, but in Europe we have a different variation. In the US, you have the circle, and then you knock the marbles from the outside, and then you push the balls outside of the circle, and this is how you win. But in Europe, we have a different version where we have a hole in the ground, and we knock marbles with other marbles so they can go into the hole. Basically, it's like a billiards game, but you don't have a wall behind the pocket, so you have to think about what power I have to use for my shot. Do I have to give it a spin to make sure that the shooter ball doesn't fall also in the hole? So what I was really interested, because this is something that you don't see in other games, is also more realistic physics, and physics that are not intentionally easy on the player, because people who have played pool or on the phone, it's usually a very simple matter of just holding the button and everything is fine. But if you actually try to play actual pool, the finesse and the precision and the muscle memory that you need to have to do a decent shot, a simple shot is hard. It's not. I mean, you need some practice to get good at pool eventually. But so I wanted to capture this complexity that is intentionally reduced in a lot of the mobile games and put it there. And at the same time, this is something that I've always tried to follow in my projects, is to try to offer something unique. And the end product that we have here is we have a game that has a table that is spinning, and you have the pockets that spin around a circle table, and you need to not only time your shots with the power, but also to hit the right time to hit the ball so it hits the pocket as it's spinning around the main circle. And I was also just as a curious idea with because honestly I've never seen a very decent game where you have billiards on a round table, which is I wanted to play with the concept and see what I can come up with. Considering most of the people when they hear billiards, they imagine a rectangular table with 6 pockets and that's that. But if you play with the concept, I came up with some other things. As I mentioned, the spinning table is just one thing, but then I was thinking, okay, how can I come up with an idea where you have a billiards that is like an arcade machine that has pistons and pushes balls up in the air, and you can play single player and it's quick. So this is something I was thinking, okay, because an arcade machine, you don't wait for somebody else's turn, and it kind of breaks the flow of the game. So I came up with this concept of a game, let's say a pool variation where you quickly shoot one shot after the other, but there are of course some things to consider. And then playing with the game, because the thing is, it started very simply with the basic idea of the marble game where you knock balls with other balls in a central hole. And then I even came up with the idea of how can I make a puzzle out of a billiards game, which is it sounds silly, but just hear me out. It's an interesting idea. I have a mode in the game where you actually solve a puzzle where all of the balls actually are magnets. Some of them have a positive polarity and negative polarity, and they're placed in a circle. Let's say not in a circle, but in random positions within the circle, and you need to with a limited amount of shots to displace the balls in such a way that all of them get paired. And then to the normal things that you consider when you play a pool, the physics of hitting the ball and adjusting the spin and thinking about where the cue ball will end. You also add the idea of having a magnetic field that push some balls away and attract other balls. And it kind of it's just like something that I was experimenting. What can I add to make it more interesting, to not so vanilla? And I play a little bit with the a function that adds magnetic properties to the ball, and out of experimenting, I came up with the idea. Okay, well, maybe this is an interesting thing, a puzzle game with the mechanics of billiards, where you have to consider trajectories, and this magnetic field pushes this ball and then pushes the other one. And so there's some pretty spectacular things, especially if you get into it. But I'm hoping some of the listeners would like to try it maybe and see something that probably don't see every day. Actually, this is one of the reasons. Of course, in today's world, everybody, if you open your mobile phone, you can find 1,000 billiards game, but you won't find another game where you have magnets, you have spinning tables, you have pistons, you have arcade machines. It's just something unique, and yeah. Sorry for the long-winded answer. Please feel free to interrupt.
That's perfectly makes sense and kind of. I want to jump back. Actually, the one that caught my ear there was the magnet mode. So obviously, in real life, unless you're dealing with a cheater, like dice and marble and stuff aren't really like magnet based. Was that kind of like you thinking about that as a problem, or you just trying to come up with like more clever and like fun ways to solve like puzzles in the game?
Yeah, so here's the thing. It actually, I had just came up. I just came like a week before I started working on the magnet idea. I was just toying with different concepts that could introduce something new to the classical game, because classical game everybody has seen billiards, and honestly speaking, a lot of people find it boring. Let's be honest, most people don't turn on their PC. They want to play billiards. They won't stop Call of Duty to play billiards or something else. So I was thinking, okay, let's come up with something that's unique. That's a unique selling point that differentiates the game. And after I came up with the idea of the pockets that spin around the table and you need to hit the timing, which adds another aspect to the game, I was also toying with the idea of, okay, let's come up with an idea where we have wacky physics or something that changes the physics in a way that is, well, I wouldn't say unique, but rather interesting to even to veteran players, but also to people who usually don't get too excited seeing a white ball knocking another ball. So let's be honest, realistically speaking, the way we have implemented it, physically it's impossible to have a magnet with only one pole, with one magnetic pole. But for the sake of the game, basically I was doing some experiments with on the table that has several pockets. And I decided, okay, let's make it fun. Maybe I was thinking we add a magnet mode that lasts 10 seconds, and for next shot you need to consider a magnetic field that can push your shot away. And then I decided, okay, well, this looks fun, but and then I tried it on a different table where I have no pockets, and I was thinking, okay, what if I come up with an idea of a way to make a puzzle out of this whole situation, because it started to make sense. I shot a couple of balls in the testing mode, and I saw that when you shoot a ball with other balls deflecting or attracting it, depending on the magnetic pole, it kind of becomes an interesting puzzle, because when you shoot, you don't think about where it's going to land, but then you figure out, okay, maybe this makes sense. I can, if I have a magnetic pole that pushes the ball in one direction, I can make a shot that looks impossible in another. For example, if you have a pocket directly facing the ball, but you pull a wall between the ball and the pocket, there is no way you can pocket this. But if you have something that you can ricochet the ball off, but it's not necessarily a side of the table, but let's say a magnet, and then it could work. And the thing is, on top of liking billiards, I've always liked also puzzle games, and I was thinking, okay, how can we do? Let's say, I wouldn't say the impossible. Obviously, we managed to do it in my game, but how can you make a puzzle out of a billiards table? I remember when I was younger, I used to frequent a pool bar, and there are a lot of professional players who are training there. And it's actually kind of frustrating when you're an amateur and you see people knocking everything out in one shot, and then you're just struggling to keep the single ball. And I remember they were doing some exercises where they had where the training how to position the ball correctly on their shot, where to hit the ball specifically, so that the cue ball ends in a favorable position. So they were really solving this little problems of triangles and positions, and it kind of all came together, and with the fun idea of the magnets and let's say relatively fast-paced gameplay. This created the idea of the magnet mode, which is the puzzle mode in the game.
Wow, that is surprisingly how much you've thought about that and that problem. I kind of want to jump into the next thing is that you brought up kind of in the beginning is, so obviously this game is available currently in early access on Steam and also available on Android applications, as you said. So let's talk about it. So obviously you seem to have some disdain towards some general practices on Android or on mobile, generally speaking, which I think I'd share with you. And I'm curious kind of how do you, because obviously even on a computer, you have a mouse and keyboard, you could at least tell them they could use a controller. How do you handle stuff like even control schemes and that difference of player habits kind of between these platforms?
Yeah, so in terms of porting the game, one of the basically it was not that big of a problem because we made the game in Unity, which allows us a lot of flexibility. In terms of as you're writing the game, you're writing on the PC, even if it's going finally, if it's going on Android, that's fine. But as you're testing the game, most of the things that you do on the PC, and even if you're not writing with PC in mind, you still kind of add the controls as you're testing it to make your testing experience a bit easier. The shortcuts with the shooting, you shoot with the space, or you move with the arrows, the angles, or rotating the table with the arrows or some other input. So this was already in there. The thing is, the reality is that the game was initially thought of as a mobile-only title, and everything was going great. We actually had a publisher for the game who found the game interesting, but a couple of weeks, actually a month before the release, the relationship with the publisher fell through, which is a very unpleasant situation, especially if you've been 3 months in development and making changes. And then it falls apart literally 100 meters from the final line, from the finish line. But unfortunately, this is a reality for a lot of developers, and this is a risk you take when you have to be in a partnership with somebody else. So basically, the reason that it was never the idea was to have the game as a mobile title. But since we lost our publishing deal, we have to salvage some of the investment. And since we're doing it on Unity and the port is relatively easy, a lot of the controls are already in there. They're already written and implemented in the PC version as we're doing the development on the computer. It was relatively easy to do. Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if this is very interesting to the listeners, but as an indie developer, the mobile platform is completely brutal, and there are a lot of things that you only learn a few months dealing with Google or Apple in terms of publicity, and then how far your game can go. Because essentially speaking, even if you have an application that makes you 100 meters tall and gives you $1 billion, it's realistic that you'll never hear about it unless you invest a lot of money in advertising. the horror stories that you can read on the internet is essentially it's actually this is the free market and this is how it works. The people with the big budgets always get the top spots. But it's a especially brutal situation with mobile games. If you open your App Store or the App Store or Apple or Google Play, you see the same games all the time, every time. It's not a coincidence. It's just a reflection of the marketing muscle that companies have, and they have every right to do that. They became big for a reason, and they stay big for a reason. My advice, if any indie developers are listening, if you can secure a publishing deal for a mobile game, you're not looking at a very good outcome eventually. The barrier to entry, people say that there are a lot more money in mobile games. The reality is that 99% of the games make zero money and 1% make some money, and half, let's say 1/3 of the 1% actually make all the money. It's something that they don't advertise really on the internet, and people tell you. But as a developer, you can read stories of people who release the game, and for 3 weeks they type in Google Play the name of their game, and they can't find anything. They find other games because Google has not indexed it because they haven't invested enough in marketing. And but listen, I'm not saying this is not. This is just something that Google have to do, especially if you have 1,000 applications released every day, and a lot of people take advantage of the system and copying titles of more popular applications and trying to leech and direct traffic to their things. Google have to put in to enforce some way of weeding out things that are fake, things that are real, things that have potential, and things that don't. And it's, let's say, if you're an indie developer trying to make a game for mobile, if you don't have a publishing backing, it's a very long and hard road that could be financially very, very damaging. So always find the publisher. This is even if you take the risk of having a deal fall through, like happened with us, 1% of something is better than 100% of zero.
Accurate way to kind of say that that statement. That's a very interesting. But I tend to, my understanding of all those marketplaces, I think I tend to agree with you. Jen, with you on those, is there's just too much, which I think Steam's getting there, obviously, and you're seeing the other platforms get there. But like mobile is the definition of like, it's just there's too much out there at a certain point, and you just can't find. Like, you have to know what you're looking for. You're not finding anything.
Yeah, I completely agree. The thing is, the barrier to entry. For mobile games, it's becoming higher and higher, and I've heard other colleagues who make indie games saying, just don't even hope for a good result unless you have a couple of millions in the pocket to promote your game. You're just going to get destroyed by industry giants with billions of dollars in marketing budget. So the thing is, maybe the indie dream for a for a hit mobile game was realistic 15 years ago, but now it's pretty much like Hollywood. It's just unless you're a big studio actually, I think this is a very good analogy of where the game business and game development is heading. The game industry, the trends that you're seeing in movie industry, where you have people remaking movies that were done 10 years ago and making them and remaking them. You have started seeing this 7 or 8 years ago already in the PC industry. You're remastering StarCraft, Warcraft, you're remastering Resident Evil and things like this. And it's the same game being recycled and recycled and recycled, because even the big companies with the big budgets know that the way to sell a product requires a lot of marketing, and there is a lot of noise, and people have a lot of things to do other than play games. And when they have a solid fan base that they could offer a product to, especially if they offer the game that they love, that's let's say tied to them in terms of nostalgia, it's always a safe bet, because at the end of the day, all of the big publishers, they make great games, and the big studios, but they're also there to make money. Yeah, the thing is, let's say, if you think about 15 years ago, people didn't have Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or something to take their time. When they sit on a computer, it's either working or playing games. Now, when you sit on a computer, it could be a one of million things. You could be watching YouTube videos. You could be checking Facebook. You could be doing whatever. And if you're in the past, if a game developer was thinking, I'm competing with this and this developer for this and this time, no, you're actually competing not only with the game developers, you're competing for device, for screen time with YouTube, with Netflix, with Facebook and everything else and all the noise that's have in the world, which is especially hard if you have a mobile device and Facebook is sending you notifications every 5 minutes. It's hard to focus on the game. So, yeah.
No, I completely agree. So let's to kind of fun and wrap this thing up then. So as we've been talking about, the game is Billiards of the Round Table. Maybe it says BRT at the end. You are part of Mustache Cabal, which great name, by the way. It's one of those names I don't understand how something like that has not been taken. You can find the game currently in Steam Early Access or for $4.99 US, whatever your local currencies in that is, or free on the Android devices. Final thing on that one is, when can people expect kind of a full release of the game?
So the thing is, maybe in a couple of months, we're still figuring out some of the controls for PC because the ease of access, ease of control that the mobile platform offers with the touch screen is something that is sometimes very hard to replicate on a PC, especially if you designed your whole game for a mobile device with a touch screen. So we are figuring out some of the controls, trying to get some feedback on what feels intuitive to the players and what makes sense. Because at the end of the day, you can play the game with the mouse, but you're probably not as fast, and which could be a disadvantage in some of the modes, like the arcade mode, where you have to compete against a timer. And we're trying to figure out a way to make the controls a little bit smoother. Maybe come up with integration of some controllers that you could use. Maybe the upcoming Steam Deck is an option that actually we're ready for it because our game is let's say a touchscreen application to begin with. So in terms of content, I know there is a lot to play in the game, especially if you get into the higher levels in the magnet mode when you have more complex puzzles that look. Some of them are real mind twisters. I don't remember the word in English specifically, but some of them look completely insane and impossible to do. But there are actually ways when you get into the higher levels. In fact, a big part of the game is collecting special cue balls that you unlock by achieving certain goals within the game, like hitting a specific high score. You unlock some very cool cue balls, like one. For example, we have one called Barber Shot that it's like the spiraling thing you see at barber shops, and that also makes foam across the table as you shoot with it. And funny things like this. We have one that is a ball, but then terramorphs into a little golden ticket. It's a special thing for people who would like to support us. It's an in-app purchase. So it has a lot of. Oh yeah, we have one that it's like a living cue ball that snorts until you pocket. And funny things, funny ideas that we had when we were doing some different shaders and different materials, and we decided, okay, let's make this like I wouldn't say like a Pokemon collection, but let's make this something like people can go back and collect special cue balls based on their achievements and have a big collection. So. Yeah. So basically, in 2 months, we expect to release fully for PC. Let's see how we're progressing with the feedback. But we'll see.
I want to say thank you for taking time out of your, I want to say, evening
Yeah,
to
it's one past midnight in Bulgaria. So.
way later than you had to any level. You had to, but yeah.
Don't worry. I think, most gamers and most game developers, they're awake at 2 in the morning.
But to clarify to everyone, I let him choose the time, and this is the time he chose. This was not me being like, we do it this, had to do it this late. This was him being like, here's a time I'm thinking. I'm like, okay.
Actually, that's completely correct. It's one of my most productive times is after midnight. So
just to clarify, if anyone feels like I made up stuff.
You're very accommodating. So it's just absolutely a choice of mine. So don't worry about it, guys. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us. And remember, everyone, if you want to either go check out the game, or worst case, as anyone tell you, go wishlist the game on Steam. And we're going to let him get back to work now because he's got some work to do. But again, thank you for joining the show today, and have a great night, we'll call it. This podcast was a production of the SWW Show. To learn more, go to theswwshow.com. Remember, you can follow the show on Twitter at the SWW Show. You can follow me at Mikey_Maroney. You can follow AJ at LowSeatBoy. Remember, new episodes premiere on Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time on anchor.fm/SWW and podcast services around the globe.